We all know the stories of Jamestown and Plymouth Rock, the famous starting points of European settlement in North America. But what about the ones that didn't make it? The ghost towns of colonial ambition. Long before those success stories, the shores of this continent were littered with failures, settlements swallowed by the wilderness, hunger, and conflict. These are the forgotten tales of colonies that perished. Let's travel back to 1526. Spain establishes San Miguel de Gualdapi, likely in modern-day South Carolina. It seemed promising, but disease quickly tore through the settlement. To make matters worse, the enslaved Africans they brought with them rose up in a desperate revolt. The colony crumbled within months. A few decades later, in 1559, another Spanish attempt at Pensacola Bay was literally blown away. A massive hurricane struck just days after they arrived, sinking their ships and obliterating their supplies. The survivors had no choice but to abandon their dream. The Spanish weren't the only ones to face disaster. In 1570, a small group of Jesuit missionaries tried to build a settlement called Ajacan in what is now Virginia. They hoped to convert the local Powhatan people, but trust broke down. The missionaries were killed, their mission ending in tragedy long before English ships would encounter the same powerful chiefdom. In 1587, over 100 men, women, and children settled on the island. When their governor, John White, returned from a supply trip to England 3 years later, he found the settlement completely deserted. The only clue left behind was a single word carved into a post: Croatoan. Their fate remains one of history's most enduring mysteries. France also had its share of colonial calamities. Imagine being a convict, abandoned on Sable Island, a remote sliver of sand off the coast of Nova Scotia. That was the reality for a group of French settlers in 1598. Left with minimal supplies, they endured years of brutal isolation and near starvation before the few survivors were finally rescued. Further south, on St. Croix Island, another French colony was decimated by a brutal winter and the horrific effects of scurvy. England as Popham Colony in Maine was abandoned after its leader died, and the settlers faced a harsh New England winter. These stories of failure are just as important as the stories of success. They paint a vivid picture of the immense challenges, the brutal realities, and the sheer human cost of Europe's first attempts to colonize a new world. Each failure was a harsh lesson learned, paving the way for the colonies that would eventually survive. If you're fascinated by these forgotten chapters of history, you'll love the deep dives we do here on the Secret History channel. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you do not miss our next exploration into colonial misadventures. Thanks for watching.